Strangers Are Spying on Your Child and Schools Are Paying Them to Do It. It's by Allison Butler and Nolan Higdon, and it talks about how as you know, we're going back to school, or our kids and grandkids are going back to school, that some people are making some serious bucks off them, and we probably don't even, most of us don't even know about it. On the line with us is one of the co-authors of that article, Nolan Higdon himself. He's also a national judge for Project Censored, which earns a lot of attention on my. I've 4 times I've won the Project Censored award, or articles that I've written have. He's also Nolan is also the article of The Anatomy of Fake News. He's a lecturer at Merrill College and the Education Department at the University of California, Santa Cruz. ProjectCensored.org is the website. His Twitter handle is Nolan Nolan Higdon Higdon, and of course also at Project Censored. Nolan, welcome to the program. Tell us about what's going on here. How is it that our kids are being monetized by big tech, and even in some cases little tech, in our classrooms?
Hey, thank you so much for having me on the program.
Sure.
Allison Butler and myself, we had been chronicling this effort, which goes back decades of big tech or corporations trying to get their way into the classroom. The fact that public education makes a pretty attentive audience and a very large audience for corporations, but public schools have usually been pretty resistant to corporations in the classroom. But we've seen that really change in the last 20 or so years, where big tech has created tools that promise to make the educational process more convenient and more effective. And this gets the tools in the classroom, which are able to monitor students, collect data on students, analyze students, and create profiles of who these students are and how it might be best to predict their behavior, or if not necessarily modify their behavior.
Now, if I was a parent, and I was many years ago, if I was a parent and I learned that the school was analyzing my child's behavior in order to help them learn better, or to identify, well, he's a little weak in reading, he's pretty good in math, or whatever, then that would make perfect sense. I know that we had this law passed back in, I think it was 1974, wasn't it, that said basically that that what happens in the classroom stays in the classroom. You mentioned it in your article. I'd have to track it. Yeah, it was the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act of 1974. How did big tech get around that, and what sort of behavior are they profiling that they're so interested in?
Well, this is just the pernicious part of the whole story, right? Teachers, of course, educators want what's best for the students. They want the students to succeed. And so a lot of these companies come in under the auspices of making the process better, right? We're so enamored in our culture with technology and media and new advances in communication that teachers and schools rightly want students to be up to date on everything. So these big tech companies come in promising to make that possible, but the reality is something quite different. They see this as an opportunity to collect data, to sell content to students, to normalize their tools in the classroom. And to your point, we do have legal protections against this, right? You just mentioned FERPA, and there's a series of other laws where schools are responsible for protecting student privacy, but there are loopholes. Schools are allowed to share student information with other educational partners, and a lot of these big tech companies are educational partners. As a result, they can take and access student data, and it's not really clear what they're doing with this data. We know that the big tech industry makes a lot of its money on collecting and analyzing data. It sells that analysis to a litany of buyers. This includes, advertisers, data brokers, companies, governments, the U.S. military, and others. So whether or not they're collecting or sharing, whether or not they're sharing or selling that data remains to be seen. But very vague language makes it impossible for schools, parents, or students to know exactly what is being done with that data.
Yeah, I think one of the more disquieting sentences in your article was, it's actually 2 sentences. It was this: recently a teen and her mother were charged in Nebraska with crimes after the mother helped the daughter procure pills to induce an abortion. Facebook provided law enforcement with the communication between the mother and daughter so an arrest could be made. Now, this is not specific to the school, is it?
No, it's not. That was done through Facebook, now Meta. But companies like Facebook and Meta do create educational resources for the classroom. So they're also getting their way into the classroom. And I think that story speaks to a, challenge we have when speaking to young people. We don't really spend a lot of time talking about the necessity of privacy and how important it is. What's legal today may be illegal tomorrow. So you may have been in a state where access to abortion was legal and now it is illegal.
Right.
So privacy around your communication all of a sudden becomes very important. We know those who've been victims of stalking or the targets of political campaigns. Privacy is very important to those individuals as well. So there's a lot of complications that come from when we just sort of throw out privacy in general and in schools in particular.
Tell me about Bark.
So Bark is one of many of these different tools or platforms that allows schools to monitor students across different platforms. And basically, this is another thing that folks need to understand. It's not just one company at your school that is collecting information and monitoring your students. They all share it together, and there's platforms that connect all the information across different platforms. And so students are basically monitored everywhere they go, both in physical spaces and online spaces as well.
And this is not just when they're in the classroom. This is in their lives.
Right.
So Bark is monitoring presumably their social media. You write their emails, their searches, their online searches, the words that they're searching for. I mean, again, is this the sort of thing where, oh my God, little Susie is searching, suicide, or is this little Susie is interested in a particular kind of clothing, and so we can deliver an ad to her for that?
Well, this is the way they sell it to parents, right? We're going to monitor your child to see if they are, likely to consider suicide, if this is someone we should monitor for a school shooting, et cetera. And for those reasons, a lot of parents and schools buy into this tech. But these companies are not focused on serving the student's best interest. They're focused on making profits. And by using things like threats of suicide and school shooting as a mechanism to get in the classroom, they then all of a sudden have ability to access very lucrative data where they can create a profile of a student, from their youngest age all the way to their adulthood, getting better and better with each new data point at predicting what these individuals will do or modifying their behavior if necessary.
So you talk about how this really went on steroids with the pandemic, that, virtual learning and all this kind of thing. How did that change things?
Yeah, remote learning has been increasing more and more over the last 30 or 40 years in general. And most, students have had one or more of these tools in the classroom already. But once COVID struck and the response was to move to remote learning, all of the educational process was moved to remote spaces. And that means educators who didn't use all or some of this technology all of a sudden were forced to, and students who weren't exposed to it 24/7, now they were. And it really just normalized these tools. So it accelerated a process that was already in motion. And what Allison Butler and I are trying to do with our article and future articles is to get parents and teachers and students to at least evaluate what's going on in these classroom spaces. Is this where we want to go? Do we want to have more privacy protections? Do we want corporations in the classroom? COVID moved things so rapidly, we didn't stop to ask these critical questions about the educational process.
Right. So what should parents do as kids are going back to school? You mentioned a bunch of products, software products, Turnitin, Class Dojo, Illuminate Education, G Suite for Education. You also said that, hardware like Chromebooks and Apple tablets can spy on you on behalf of your school or on behalf of the company that says that they're selling services to the school. What can parents do?
Well, I think it's important for parents to first recognize that this is how big tech makes its money, not just in school spaces, but everywhere. We incorrectly label things as free, like Google searches are free or social media is free. It's not free. It's unpaid labor. It's unpaid data that users give that makes massive amounts of profits for these companies. Mm-hmm. And so when they, in air quotes, donate a Chromebook or something to a school, they're not doing a donation of the goodness of their heart. It's just simply another way to collect more data. And so parents would be wise to push teachers to answer questions about what do they know about the tech and software they're using in the classroom. What are their thoughts on privacy protections? And if teachers can't answer those questions, move it up to the administration, move it up to the state level. Really need to press these questions so parents can protect their kids and students.
Yeah, it seems like something that state and federal legislators should be looking at as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Nolan Higdon, National Judge for Project Censored, author of The Anatomy of Fake News, lecturer at Merrill College and the Department of Education at UCS Santa Cruz. ProjectCensored.org, Nolan_Higdon on Twitter. Nolan, thanks a lot. Thanks for dropping by today. Good talking with you.